Welcome to Toronto Awakening Sharing Group. I'm the group leader of Toronto Awakening Sharing Group, Yvonne Cason. It's wonderful to see you all. We are a safe place for experiencers of all types of spiritually transformative experiences to share their stories and learn from each other. We started off as a physical group in Toronto having meetings before COVID. And with COVID, we've now turned into an online group, and people from all over the world have started joining us. So I'd love to hear where you're joining us from today. If you could just take a minute now and type into the chat where you're joining us from today. I'm joining you from Toronto, Canada. I know we've got Robert Bear wrote in the chat that he's joining us from Oregon. And Lisa says she's joining us from north of Toronto. She'll tell us in a minute where she's joining us from. So welcome, everybody. Orillia, Ottawa, Gatineau, Richmond Hill, Montreal, Sudbury. Awesome. All over Canada. That's awesome. And the USA. Welcome, everyone. So everyone's going to be muted during the presentation. And if you have any questions for our speaker, please type them into the chat and she'll be happy to answer them at the end of her presentation during the question and answer period. So it is my great pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Lisa Jackson, RN, registered nurse. She is a healthcare professional with 30 years of diverse experience, working both as a registered nurse and as a vibrational medicine practitioner. She's a mother of two adult children and is deeply passionate about teaching, learning, connecting with nature, and she has devoted herself to exploring the metaphysical world since the early 1990s. She had a profound spiritual awakening in 2021, when she left her corporate nursing position and fully immersed herself in vibrational medicine. She is based in Newmarket, Ontario, where she strives to make a positive impact within her community. So it is my great pleasure to introduce Lisa Jackson.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. I'm just going to share my screen. So before I started today, I just wanted to share with you, and I apologize, I can't see where I'm looking, but I wanted to share a little bit of something that made this date significant. And when I refer to my partnership with the divine, this is what I'm talking about. So part of being in this new life was learning to speak my truth. And there was something I had scheduled on this day, and I decided not to attend, knowing because that wasn't right for me and wondering what the universe would bring in on this day. And then unbeknownst to me, I was asked to speak to you all here today. And for me, that's kind of a very good example of how the universe works. So my name's Lisa Jackson, and I am a vibrational medicine practitioner, which means I help people manage both their emotional and physical lives, teaching them how to use the energy around them and within them. So I'm going to just talk to you briefly about my life prior to my spiritual awakening. So most people start with who am I? But for me, it's important to start with who was I? And as you can see, that I was everything to everyone. But basically, I wasn't always this way. In my 20s, a massage therapist had worked with me and said that she saw guides when she was working with me. And even though I didn't know what a spirit guide was, I ran out to Kohl's and got a tarot book for dummies and started really investigating all things metaphysical. And, I decided that I would try to do this for a living and try to set up my own little practice. But unfortunately, the world kind of got the better of me, and I decided that no, I was going to go back and pursue my nursing career and and fear basically got the better of me. And what happened to me, what really took me away from my work is, like I said, that life got busy and I put my spiritual practice to the side and decided to take on nursing full time. It was then after my divorce that I decided to take more leadership roles in nursing, fully pulling me away from the bedside, because why I got into nursing in the first place is I loved working with people and I didn't want to be chained to a desk. And so as I got farther away from the things that truly made me me and living outside of myself, it certainly came with a cost. So as you can see, and this was the cost. This is what identifying with my mind looked like. And by 2020, I had, you can see the list of physical illness. I was on over 30 medications. I was actually deaf in my right ear, wearing a hearing aid. I was 230 pounds and I was very unhappy. I was spending a lot of time living in my mind. And so I was creating, my mind, sorry, was creating a lot of suffering for me. And I think this journey is not unsimilar to a lot of ours. And so all of this suffering cracked me open, as it tends to do. And part of my journey and what I'm here to share with today is the fact that it's very similar. I didn't realize that, and all of this suffering has the potential to crack us open, very similar to a near-death experience. So in April in 2020, and as things start to do, the universe kind of interceded. By 2020, I had started to change and question what my mind was telling me. Of course, there was a rock bottom. My physical life, my emotional life, there was a fight with my kids that really showed me that I needed to make some changes, serious changes fast. Because of the pandemic started in March of 2020, and my sister owns a gardening center, and that allowed me the opportunity to go up north and help her, because I also worked from home. And during this time, I had to stay in a cabin on the lake by myself. And you can imagine, when you were going through things, spending that alone time really started to help me take a look at what I needed to do in my life. And I really knew that I needed to make some changes. I recognized that a lot of my relationships were not the new big beginnings I thought after my divorce, but were actually a repeated pattern. The ways that I had been escaping with my life had all caught up with me. And so in 2021, I had embraced the concept that had changed my life. It was that concept that you are not your thoughts, and stopping my mind led me to a deep inner wisdom that helped me change my life. And so what I did, as you can see from the slide, I ended my relationship. I left my corporate nursing job and I sold my home. And losing where I work, who I love, and where I live in the span of 2 months continued to crack me open and let the light of source kind of flow in. And so how I started making these changes was I went back to the books and the studies that I had done in my 20s, as I had shared when I had first got into metaphysical sort of things. And it was actually my brother who said, Eckhart Tolle has an audio book, The Power of Now. And I listened to that audio book, and then I listened to his podcast every day for a year so I could handle getting these thoughts. And I could see how the universe was kind of working to help me. And although this was scary, as I was starting to close my mind and learn to be more with me and connect with the universe, as I started receiving messages, as things from the spirit world started showing up into the physical world, I was scared and overwhelmed at times, but I kept going. And that is actually what brought me to this group here. was trying to figure out, has anybody else? And I'd known, obviously, there was lots of books around the world of people having these experiences, but to see Yvonne's experience and listen to the experience of others really helped keep me going. And I realized as I kept going that not only had the universe provided me a way to heal myself, but it actually had provided me a soul purpose. And so I kept searching. And so while I kept searching these and embracing this connection, the magic really started to happen. And I put together, and I'm going to share them with you shortly, 6 principles that allowed me to deepen my connection to the divine, help heal myself and just by practicing them daily to the best of my abilities. And that's what I'm here. That's my life work now, is to help others and show them this way to see if this will work for them as well. So basically, and as we know, these spiritual texts or any of these readings that we've all read are all basically saying the same thing, that there is a universal source that animates everything and we're all connected to. And these 4 books specifically, The Power of Now and The New Earth and Eckhart Tolle's teaching, really helped me to quiet my mind. And when my mind was quiet, that allowed my connection to kind of the universe to deepen. The book Frequency taught me about personal vibration. Braiding Sweetgrass taught me the ways of the indigenous wisdom about plants and animals. And The Tools is actually a very interesting book. It's written by a psychologist. And even though they don't really talk about source, they call it a power, connecting to a higher power. But this book, The Tools, gave me real step-by-step ways to face my fear or handle my desire, especially for food. So those are important resources. So people have said to me, how did you do this? Because I was really able to change my life, and I'm going to share that with you in a second. But how did I start over? How did I start a business? How did I find my peace? How did I get healthy? Well, again, the universe led me to these 6 defining principles, what I'm going to share with you today. And again, as I'm sharing these with you, none of these will be new. And that's why my work is called A New Way Back, a lot of it, because a lot of this is remembering, and a lot of this are things that we already know. And most of this, to this audience who's listening today, you've already experienced this. I'm going to just take you through the 6 principles that helped change my life and then connect me to source. And then I'm going to tell you how that shows up in my everyday life. So the first one is that there is obviously a universal source to which we're all connected. And what I love sharing with this group is that many of you here have experienced this and work with this source daily. And I do love this quote, because as we go forward and share this work and share how the universe shows up in our life, you do feel a little bit odd. I know I have, especially as a nurse. My background is in nursing, but I love the quote that says, for those who believe, no explanation is necessary. And for those who don't believe, no explanation will suffice. And I think of that often. And one of the things that I've learned through this journey is, even though we are all connected, we each have an individual connection to source. And just like how we all have hands and we all have fingers, our fingerprints are very individual. And so that is one of the things that is beautiful, that source comes to us in our own way. And so some of these things will sound familiar probably to your own journey, and some may be new. You will also hear me talk about this connection to source. I call it the divine, source energy. People call it lots of different things, but I'm talking to that one universal source that we're all connected to. And once we realize that this universal energy cannot be destroyed, it can only be recycled. And that's where that deep faith comes from. So that's first principle, and we can go to the next one. So this one is very important, and this is what I have found has truly changed my life. And as you've heard in my previous slides that I kind of didn't get through too well, but you got the gist. My mind was creating a lot of suffering, and then I was spending all my time escaping that. But through these teachings of these spiritual teachers, I've realized that just like I'm not my lungs, my brain is just an organ, and it thinks for me, and it's very useful in doing so. But once I've used my brain to complete a task, I no longer need it. And unaware, we create 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. And without that awareness, most of them are exactly the same. And then we wonder why we can't change. It's also our thoughts and our mind, again, left unaware, that creates suffering from normal everyday challenges. So working to stop my thoughts is definitely a beneficial practice. And there's two easy ways to do that. One is focusing all your attention in the present moment. So the present moment is all there is. And the second thing is being aware of sensations in the body. And I teach people, when your mind is racing, if you pop something really sour in your mouth, bite a lemon, or even a Sour Patch Kid, that intense body sensation will take all the energy from your racing mind and pull it down into the awareness of your mouth. And in that space, you can take a couple of deep breaths. And that's just kind of an example of how we can manage our thoughts. And so that takes a lot of practice. It's simple, but it's not easy. But that is a life changing action, is getting control of our thoughts. And now you've got a little tip to try it. And again, on my social media pages, all for free, I post resources like that to help bring people into the present moment and help them control their mind. So this, even as a nurse, I understood energy, but this last couple of years, I've really explored the quantum physics, which I know many of you know about, and really understanding the cause of and effect of everything in our energetic world. And what I realized is, and this is what I'm trying to teach people, people do not really understand that we are energetic beings in an energetic world. And what does that mean? Well, that means everything is made of energy, as the slide said, including our thoughts and our emotions. And because nobody teaches us how to manage our emotions or stop our thoughts, your thoughts and those emotions are generating like an app in the background if we're not aware. But we can learn to manage our thoughts and discharge our emotions and raising our vibration and frequency. And as you know, there are so many ways that we can raise our vibration and manage our energetic body. So this was a really important concept for me, because I didn't realize how many negative emotions I was storing. And because like attracts like, that's where the negativity comes into your life. So that was an important concept. Okay, to the next one. So backing onto that, as I shared in my slide, I had a lot of different addictions trying to escape the world that my mind had artificially created, thinking it was my reality. But what I learned and how I learned to get my weight under control and be moderate and all of those things, again, not perfect. But what I realized is, if I can manage my thoughts and then deal with the emotions that I was feeling, I wasn't creating this toxic soup that I was always pushing down, looking to escape from. So when you're able to live that way, you find that you don't need to search outside of yourself. And it takes practice, but you can create a world where you can manage your emotions so you don't have to create addictions to escape them. So this was very helpful for me to also know as I managed my way in this new world and working with energy and vibration. Most of us, especially if you were raised in the 90s, but culturally we were used, if you were broken up with or went through a divorce or lost your job, you would sit on the couch and grab that ice cream and your bottle of wine and gorge yourself. We didn't realize, or I know I didn't realize, that eating that way actually prolongs your misery, prolongs your hormones, emotions, all of that stirring within you lasts for 3 days longer. And the best way to prepare for an event like this, for example, is to eat clean a couple of days before. But the way I was raised was to say that, and even as a nurse, that food, I either ate well so I would look a certain way or ate well so I could lose weight. Nobody ever told me that my emotional health was connected to my eating. And that was a really big aha moment. And again, learning to manage all of these emotions, and it allows me to connect deeper with source because I don't have all this stuff swimming in front of the connection that I'm trying to make. So this is really important. As I was making my way through my journey, and I would have setbacks, and of course I would have triumphs, but of course, as you're making a new life, it doesn't always go well. And what I realized, and I got a message from Source saying that challenges are here to move us forward. And this isn't a new concept, and we've all heard this, but I'm kind of on a mission to change a saying. We've all heard the saying that there's nothing in life guaranteed. Only certain things are death and taxes. But I'm going to change that to death, taxes, and challenges, because challenges are here to move us forward. Most of us, when we look back at our lives, anything tough that we've gone through, we have come back out of it even tougher, right? And what it is the challenges are fine. It's the suffering our mind creates about these challenges. And instead of having a challenge, conquering that challenge, raising your vibration and really feeling good, and therefore you're having all this positive energy, if we're not aware of how to use the energy principles, we take that challenge, the mind creates all of these scenarios of the past, of the future, none of which are true. We lower our vibration, then we do our addictions to try to escape this low vibration feeling, and then challenges are something we fear, right? But again, challenges in life are here to move us forward. It's just our mind that creates suffering over it. So I know that was a lot between the technical difficulties, and I know that's a lot of information. And this is going to be the most fun part of the presentation. I can kind of use these slides here, is to show you what my life is like now as a vibrational medicine practitioner. So I'm just going to pause for a sec and just make sure I'm regrouped. So now I'm living this new life, and this presentation was titled "The Evolution of Our Sixth Sense," because what I feel like before my spiritual awakening and subsequent Kundalini awakenings, as my vibration continues to rise, I realize that my five senses that I use every day is now evolving, and I'm now walking through life with my sixth sense evolved, and I don't always have it perfect. And you can see the technical difficulties that I was having prior to this presentation. And even when we were setting up, I was able to show Yvonne and Joe and those, to say what's going on. And even though it's frustrating for me, I know that just validates the stuff. It's further validation. And I'm honored to have closed my mind and have awakened to this source that is available to all of us. So as I show you some of these things, I always say to people that I don't have any special powers, not a medium, none of those things, because we all have, just like our fingerprint, our own unique way to connect with source. But now I feel like I'm walking through my life with this universe that I call on to as a partner. So let me show you now how it shows up in my life now that I work with it on a regular basis. So this was amazing. And I know this is a lot of people like the science and the proof. And as I said, I was diagnosed with some very serious autoimmune disorders, very serious illnesses. Some of which, of course, high blood pressure, diabetes, all go away when you lose weight. But things like being deaf in your right ear doesn't go away. And that was confirmed by an MRI. But again, everything is energy, and just like sugar clogs our little blood vessels, stored energy can do the same. And in 2021, I decided that I wanted to take responsibility with my health, and I was doing all these healings, and felt that I wanted to be responsible and wear my hearing aids more frequently. But I also, something told me that my hearing had been restored. And sure enough, when I did go for my hearing test that day, they had to do it twice. But when I came out, the person running the test said, your hearing's normal. I was crying, she was crying. And my hearing loss occurred in 2015. They're not sure why, but I did have to wear a hearing aid. And then on August 11th, 2021, it came back. I have normal hearing. And even last year in 2022, last September, the hearing place called me and said, do you mind coming back? And I said, oh, is there something wrong? My hearing's fine. And they said, no, we'd just like to redo it again. And I said, want me to come back because you don't believe this happened? And they said yes. And sure enough, I did it, and my hearing is returned. So I do thank the universe for the blessing of that healing. So, and I know Yvonne and many of others here today have similar experiences to share, but I just wanted to share that one of physical healing. I want to give you a little example of all the different ways that source touches my life, and physical healing is one of them. And while I do still have some physical challenges, I'm almost 53, so we know the body doesn't quite work as well as we used to, but my mind doesn't make challenges out of the sufferings, and I can feel my body healing. So it's pretty amazing. So it is one of the most amazing things, just like I shared at the beginning of this presentation, or tried to share at the beginning of the presentation, is that with working with this evolved sixth sense and working with the universe as my partner, life really has opened up to me and opened up opportunities. You see me here, that's at an art gallery. I hold events called A New Way Back, helping people to show them that you can quiet your mind. And a lot of this work, it needs to be experienced. And you can Google all the chakras, and you can Google energy work, but we have so much knowledge. We can look up everything. What we don't have is the wisdom, right? And to actually experience that hum or that glow or that connectedness when we close our mind and connect to source. So I've been really grateful to be able to share my experiences in this way, also working one-on-one with people. I'm also announcing publicly here that I am working on a book. I'm trying to keep myself accountable. I know there are many authors within this group, and I have such admiration for people who can share their story and get the work with the divine down into a physical form like a book. So I'm hoping to join the authors and to be able to share just another way to help people connect in a way that may work for them. Another thing that I've been introduced to on this journey was plant medicine and using it to connect and heal. And as I said before, I wait for the universe to unveil to me kind of my next step. And one of my clients who I was working with had asked me if I had ever worked with plant medicine before. And I had said no. And she had let me know that there was someone in my area, a shaman, who does work with plant medicine. And I thought this was interesting because about 6 months prior to her, I called out and said, okay, universe, this is something that's caught my attention. I had seen it on social media, and I thought, if this is something I'm meant to pursue, please let me, bring it to me. And sure enough, this client has come and has shown me a different way as well to connect. I will say, I'm sure many here know the value of plant medicine. And again, this is sacred medicine, not to be used recreationally. But the beauty for this, and one of the messages that I did get from sources, I've spent 30 years healing people from the outside in, right? Tending to them and emerge, because of their life choices or genetics or whatever brought them there. And now I have a chance, and what plant medicine shown me is introduce people in a way that they can heal themselves from the inside out. So that was very significant for me, and realizing that we are on our own sacred path and we do have all the abilities to heal ourselves. So that has been another interesting journey, and I'm going to continue to be working with a shaman to learn more about this. But again, another beautiful example of the universe stepping forward and guiding our lives where we need to go, because who thought I would find a shaman in just outside of Newmarket, Ontario, Canada? I thought I would have to go to Peru. Okay, next slide. So a lot of people say, how do I work and connect with the divine? One of the ways that I do, as you can see, I work with oracle cards. I get a lot of messages. That way, I also help read for others. That way, for me, it is one of the ways that allows me to connect either with my own guides or other people's guides, and bypassing the busy mind. So a lot of people ask how I connect. I don't physically see people who have passed over, or guides, but I do hear them or sense them. So these are just kind of examples. It's interesting. The gentleman on the left is an Irish farmer, and before I left last July to go to Ireland, I was in a beautiful metaphysical shop, and I got this message: pick up these divining rods. Those are the things that cross when we get water. And I thought, okay, maybe these are for me in my practice. I used them, but they didn't really align with me. That was 6 months prior to my trip. When I went to my trip, I got a message saying, pack those divining rods. I didn't know why. Packed them. Went to Ireland. When I was explaining to this farmer what I did, he said, oh, I know that. The lad down the road does that, but they don't work in my hands. I can't do them. Well, he came. We did some energy work with him, and didn't he knock on the door the next day and said, oh my gosh, I can now use these divining rods. And for me, that was a beautiful example of how source can be passed, from all of us, this energy. It was amazing. The picture on the right is light orbs. Before I learned to ground and clear properly, often things would follow me back. My daughter can attest that there's things move around and bang, but I find that I am able to redirect that energy, and also seeing light orbs appear. I don't know if you can see them. They're kind of circled there in red. But I know for people like to have some evidence, and maybe it's the nurse in me. So as I've gone along this journey, this past 2 years, I have tried to take videos and pictures and try to record this experience. Another interesting thing that has happened is I've also had some past lives revealed to me, all of which I've been kind of working as some sort of hedge witch or healer or someone working in the natural world. And at this same trip to Ireland that I was telling you about previously, it was revealed to me that I had lived a past life in Ireland. And people say, how do you know it's a past life? Well, it's almost like a memory, and you can feel it. And it wasn't particularly detailed. I just knew that I was working almost like as a little hedge witch outside of a community in Ireland, maybe in the 1700s. So you can see the gentleman on the left, Pat Noon, is the fairy whisperer of Ireland. He actually has flown to North America and to bless fields and things like that. Well, we were having a tour of his property. It was one of our sightseeing things. And as my sister was underneath one of the fairy trees, unbeknownst to him that I had just had this past life revealed, he grabbed my arm and said, we've worked together in a past life in Ireland. And my jaw just dropped because I had just had that revealed to me the night before. And he said it with such conviction. I was blown away, and I knew it was true. I took a picture of this. You can see on the right that I often, as many as of us have, I know when I'm connecting right to source, I do see that golden light, and often I'm directed to pull from this deck. And you can see, I don't know if you can see it, but that card is reassurance of the golden light. So I tried my best to take a picture, but that is one of the things in my journey. I recognize that things from the spiritual world are showing up in my life in the physical world, which again just deepens my faith, which is amazing. So again, we all ask for signs. And of course, in 2021, I think I shared that I had gotten away from bedside nursing all the way to a corporate risk and performance analyst, working in my basement 10 hours a day, basically chained to my desk, as far away from people as I could. And I knew that, I was meant to do more work like this. But of course, as you're starting a new business, it's scary, right? Until you really have that faith that I do now. And so I asked for a sign, like many of us do. And then this black thing is actually a skirt. And I had asked for a sign literally 2 days before to say, universe, am I on the right path? And my family have a test. I asked this, earlier, I did ask this quite a lot. And when I pulled out my skirt, and you can see my image of my logo on the skirt, and I looked for that poor moth in the dryer, couldn't find it. And I knew that was a clear sign. And the next one with the pizza, it's not always heavy. The universe kind of can give you a reminder. And actually, yeah, Vaughn, you had a reminder just before we started that I was putting a pizza in the oven, and I was busily doing something and lost my train of thought. And there was a booming voice that came out of nowhere, not my own, and made me drop what I was doing and said, check that pizza in the oven, it's going to burn. And it was so significant. That's why I took a picture of it, because it was a couple of weeks ago. And again, all of this working connected to source and divine, it's that coming from our spiritual world and manifesting it into reality. And I know that, many of us here manifest all the time, and we know that the key to manifesting is believing that we already have it. And I am blessed to say I have hundreds of examples of this, but I just thought I would show you here 2 recent ones. My brother had recently given me some golf clubs, no golf bag, and said, do you want these? And I said, sure. And he was looking on Marketplace to find a golf bag, couldn't find it. And again, I was like, why don't I ask out for the universe? And I just assumed that I already had it. Literally, I knew I was going to get it. I even texted my brother because, again, I'm always looking for evidence. And I said, this bag is coming. I didn't know where, but I knew it was coming. Sure enough, my neighbor was moving. I didn't even know she golfed. I looked down at the end of the driveway, and there is that golf bag. Not only is it a golf bag, it's a lady's golf bag in perfect condition. I was like, thank you, universe. same thing. And these were two very recent things within the last month. My daughter was having a hard time securing a car. If you've tried to buy a car lately, it can be challenging, especially when it's your first car, and with the interest rates, if you haven't saved up. Anyways, she was getting very frustrated. I was getting frustrated again, called out to the universe and said, we need some help here. Believed that it already happened. 3 days later, talking to my friend who I hadn't talked to in ages, called me and she said, I'm just calling you to chat. I'm on my way out of town, picking up my mom's car because she's selling it. I was like, okay. And sure enough, she said, and I need to do a quick deal because I, need this right away. And so we were able to get it done. So that is just two very easy examples of how manifesting does show up. So that's it. So now I am living a life that I don't want to escape from, with the universe walking side by side with me as my partner. And now my goal is to help normalize this evolution of our sixth sense for all of us out here, and those on this call and those not on the call, that know that there is a connection to something deeper. And letting people know that however you come to that, you won't guide yourself wrong. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you for the opportunity to share my story. And again, my favorite quote is "Stay wild, moonchild." But sorry, I'll share two things if I can leave you with. One is that suffering through life is optional. That suffering is created by our mind, and you can learn to stop it. And the second thing is all equal, none above. That to me is so important, that we all equally have this access to source. So anyways, that is the end of my presentation. I will hand it back over to you, Yvonne.
Thank you, Lisa. That was an absolutely awesome presentation. So everyone listening, if you have some questions for Lisa, please put them into the chat so that Lisa can answer them for you. I have a first question for you, Lisa.
Of course.
You mentioned about having a Kundalini awakening. Can you tell us a little bit about what you experienced in your Kundalini awakening?
Absolutely. This was actually fairly recently, and it's always hard to put these etheric things into words, I do find, so I struggle. But I had pulled a Dark Night of the Soul card, so I knew something was coming, and it was almost like being asked to really, really believe without a doubt, if is the best way that I could to say. And I don't know who was asking that question, and I remember really having to give it over that I truly believed, and kind of had to sit with that fear. I was fearful, and as soon as I did, this light poured in through. I actually took a picture of it, but it didn't seem to connect. Poured through the windows, and it came, like, burst up like through the base of my spine and wound all the way up out the top of my head. And I felt like I was a connection from source up and out, source, like it was. So whether that is a true Kundalini experience, I'm not sure, but I felt so connected and left me. And I've had similar experiences, not almost as profound, that blowing open, but that feeling that is, there's no way to doubt that it's real, is the only way I can explain it.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome. Thank you. That it sounds a lot like a Kundalini awakening to me.
Yeah, and I'll have to say, I'm always surprised, and this could be my own experience, on the fear that it's something so beautiful, but it means, I guess my fear comes from, it means that I had to abandon everything that I thought I knew, including my own control, I guess.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the spiritual awakening process, yes, yeah, people realize that the higher power is in control. We are not in control. We can work
That's
with it, we can co-create, but ultimately the higher power is in control. I wanted to ask you about another type of STE that you referred to, which was you said you started to remember past lives. Was it just
yes.
the one past life that you remembered, or did you remember more? Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, I think I have four that I can remember, and I can remember parts of them. One was the one in Ireland, and that was the only one that I could remember where I actually was a healer that came to fruition. The other one, the earliest ones, is it seems that I was a male, nothing special, just a disciple around the time maybe of Buddha, but not really connected. Like it just showed me very simple, just, but it was the first time where I could feel that I had a male energy and I was more like a disciple on the fringe. Another one, I was shown that I was on a ship, maybe in the 1700s, but a valued, it was like a British ship because everybody was very proper, but in this context, having a seer or having a gypsy was something that was normal in order to navigate your ships. But what happened is I had no romantic interest in either one of these two men on the ship, but they both loved, I guess, that version. And one of them threw me over in a fit of jealousy in the ocean. And even though I love the water, I've never been a huge fan of the ocean. And when I realized that, I was like, I wonder if that was connected. And then the last one was this seemed to be my most recent one that seems to, that I could remember, where I was an indigenous young girl, and I was just about to be brought to the healer or something, to be shown the ways of the medicine. And then colonization came or something came, and nothing bad happened to me. I was just put to a farmhouse, and so I never learned to become a healer, but didn't have a bad life, just cooked and cleaned. And those are the ones that I can remember.
Mhm. Interesting,
Yeah.
interesting. Jay has a question from the audience. Jay says,
Okay.
my Kundalini experience has been nothing short of mind altering, humbling, and terrifying. How have you dealt with your ways, means, and reality after a Kundalini awakening?
Great question. And I agree with all of that. Lots for me, lots of grounding. I read something about the power of going outside, grounding into the earth. And because I do find that these alternate realities that I'm seeing, especially when the manifestation started coming in, I was like, this can't be happening. But as you know, when it keeps happening over and over again, you start to realize that is your reality. And what I've honestly felt is going to groups like this and listening to people, although their experience has not been maybe exactly the same, as you can hear, there's a truth in it when people speak. And even Jay, when you asked me that question, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I know you kind of know what I'm talking about. And I find that very grounding. So learning about others' experiences. I also subscribe to the app Gaia. I'm sure lots of other people do. That has lots of other people shares experience, and I find that helps me ground and then physically ground as well.
Mhm, mhm. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Clara has a question. She says, besides asking for divine help, what is your advice to have a normal sleep? I wake up after 3 or 4 hours of sleep and I can't go back to sleep.
Totally. So that was me, and that is so common. So that is our mind. So what you want to do is, when I was talking earlier about that feeling into the body, if you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, unless you have to go to the bathroom, most of us, we wake up and think, what am I going to do for dinner, or whatever, our mind starts that. So present body awareness helps. So two things. One, you can grab something rough into your hand, like a rough crystal or that. If you focus on that over and over, that will take the brain from there into the physical body. So that will help. Same with keep something sour by your bed. I know that sounds strange, but that will also suck that. And there are resources that will help you kind of stop your thoughts, and you can learn as the thoughts come in to send them out. And my last thing is try check with your physician, of course, before you do any supplementation, but try magnesium. Magnesium prior to bed can really help stopping your thoughts and waking up.
Awesome. Thank you. We have a few more questions. Janice would like to ask you, I believe in past lives. I too connect to Ireland. What can I do to clear a past life when I was a Jewish person in the Holocaust? It seems that the suffering at that time was carried over now. How can I address this? Thank you so much.
I love that. And actually, there was some research that I was just reading about how we do carry things over, not only from our past lives, but even the traumas of our grandparents and great grandparents. That they've shown that with science with mice, if you a grandfather that is shocked when they see a cherry blossom, the child of that mouse never seeing a cherry blossom will also react. So that is important. One of the things, and again, I'm certainly not an expert, but because everything is energy, sometimes it's called clearing a karmic debt. So you could actually take some time, especially we've got a full moon coming up at the end of the month, and you can maybe release or ask the universe to help you release any karmic debt related to a past life, and that you only want to carry the lessons of that. And maybe it's the lessons of perseverance or courage, and you could just write something and burn it, or burn an Archangel Michael incense, or however you connect, and actually alchemize that energy, ask that to be released, if that helps.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Robert has a couple of questions, so I'm going to read both of them. Robert says, is there something in particular or a special moment that triggers your ability to experience your past life memories? Actually, he asked the same question twice. So he said again, is there something in particular or a special moment that triggers your ability to experience past life memories?
That's a great question. And no, I find just like how Yvonne said, I find the universe is kind of in control of this process. And the more that I try to think, okay, I'm going to release a past life, it more just kind of comes to me. But I will have to say, because I work with vibrational medicine, I don't drink alcohol. I don't eat meat, and I certainly don't judge anybody who does. And it's not from that, but I try to keep my vibration high so that I can receive these messages, whether it's past lives, messages from my guides, messages from people who want to come through. So that's the only thing that I can do to trigger it. And I'm trying to think. I think in being in nature, almost all of them may have been revealed when I was in nature. So that could be something too.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. I think another thing, if I may just comment, is sometimes going to the physical location where you've had a past life is also a trigger in my experience. And that seemed to happen to you because you went to Ireland.
For
And
sure.
while you were in Ireland, you suddenly remembered, oh, I've had a past life in Ireland.
Ireland was, if you've got to connect, I had so many connections in Ireland. That is a magic, that energy there. Oh my God. I love the people there. So great. I love all people though, so I guess that's
awesome. Well, we've come to the end of our questions. So thank you very much, Lisa. That was a really awesome presentation. Thank you for sharing your story. And I know a lot of people will enjoy watching this video.